What is the deal, beautiful people? It's your boy Ramon, Lifestyles Defined, in the building with the famed iPhone X, iPhone 10. Not sure what the kids are calling it these days. And I'm here to give you an accurate account of what this is versus what it is not. I know there's a lot of conversation around it. A lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it, and I think there's a great balance in between. So what we're looking at here is Apple's great departure from the iPhone 6 design language. And I think they did a great job moving from something that we've seen for so long into a more modern design language. And that's not to say that the iPhone 6 design language, starting from the 6 all the way to the even brand new iPhone 8 is old per se, but when we think of a modern smartphone, when we couple that word modern in there with a smartphone, you're thinking about thin bezels, super thin, maybe some dual cameras, that type of stuff. And yes, Apple set out to really achieve this goal. And as a result, the design of the iPhone 10 is pretty dope. I mean, I like the super clean front, even with the notch that I am totally not a fan of. The design on the front of the device is still very clean, and that's pretty much thanks to the fact that there's no more physical home button. So there's that. On the left side, they retain the, what is it, the little mute toggle that I love. I love to play with that thing when I'm bored. It gives you a nice little feedback. I'm surprised it hasn't break as yet. As much iPhones that I've played with that on. But yeah, you've got the mute toggle, you've got your volume up and down. And then on the right side, there's this surprisingly large power button. I don't know what was the reason for making the power button so much, I guess so much more accessible, because it is taller and it is a little wider. But wow, it's kind of nice to use. No qualms from me. There's nothing at the top of the device. On the bottom, you'll find the speaker grill with the lightning charger. Now, the design is not perfect. For instance, at the back of the device, you've got the new camera cluster, which is actually vertical. And I don't, I'm not complaining about how the phone doesn't sort of sit flat, which has been a valid complaint for some time. And this iPhone 10 is more of an offender than any of the other iPhones, but whatever. I'm not someone that types on a flat surface often. I actually hold my phone in my hand when I'm typing, so that doesn't bother me. What does bother me is that vertical cluster. My finger just rests right on the camera now. And I'm trying to retrain myself to sort of use or hold it in a different way. Steve Jobs would be so much prouder of me these days. But I'm still fighting with that. The design itself is much smaller than what you would see on the 7 Plus or the 8 Plus. And there's some great videos out there explaining this. Seemingly you get more display, but it sort of removes the chin and the bezels from the 7 Plus and the 8 Plus. Yes, I can see that argument, and I guess technically the screen size is a little bigger, but there's some real estate that's lost. And I kind of noticed this when typing on the iPhone 10. It just doesn't seem as big as the Plus. And if you're looking for the biggest screen on an iOS phone you can find, this iPhone 10 may not be for you. Now, as mentioned before, with the lack of a home button, which has been the bread and butter of iPhone for years, comes entirely new ways to use your phone. For instance, if you're in an app, to go home, you now swipe up from the bottom of the screen where you'll see a line, sometimes black, sometimes white, depends on the application. You slide up and it takes you home, right? Simple enough. To get to your control center, you slide down from the top right, and to get to your notifications, you slide down from the top left. Now, one of the more confusing gestures is the multitasking gesture. And in the past, you would double tap the home button, right? Here, you sort of slide up halfway and then over to the right. and that's reminiscent of an old BlackBerry or a Palm Pre gesture. So here's that gesture again, and it works wonderfully here. But there are some quirks. For instance, if you are trying to move some icons around on the home screen, you click and hold. Before, I would say you just sort of hit the home button and it goes back to normal. It removes the editing or the ability to move the icons. Now, because there is no home screen, there's a done button at the top right. I don't know, seems out of place, but it does the job okay. And then when you go into multitasking, before you would slide the cards up in a pretty quick gesture to get rid of apps that were open. Now, because that slide up gesture takes you home, you need to click and hold on a card and then click the little minus button at the top left. So these things are kind of different. And I would say Steve Jobs told me that if I needed to close applications on my phone, the OS was doing multitasking wrong. So I'll leave that bit of jewel with you. Make what of it you will. Of course, one of the heavy hidden features of the iPhone 10 is Face ID. Is it dope? Yes. Does it work? Yes. Does it have its ups and downs? Yes. It's not as easy to sort of unlock your phone that's sitting on a desk as it was with Touch ID, but it does require a whole new way for you to interact with your phone. And by and large, I think it works. There's all these different depth sensing technologies up there that's measuring the depth of your face to make sure it's you. It has this uncanny ability to know when you're looking at it. It knows when someone else is looking at it and they're not the person. In fact, it does this dopeness where if someone looks at your phone, sure, it'll show the lock screen and it'll say, hey, Instagram notifications. But when you look at your phone, you see those same notifications, but then it actually reveals the details of those notifications when it can verify that it's you. So little things like that I think are dope. Some people are, I guess, I don't know what you would call them, unlock speed snobs are quick to mention how much faster Touch ID was. Yeah, okay, fine. And for now, you have the option. You could have gone with the iPhone 8 or iPhone 8 Plus if you still need Touch ID. But it's obvious to me that the Touch ID is going to go away and Face ID is the future. So just embrace it now. In terms of other features here, the iPhone 10 does a good job of earning your $1,000. So there's the water resistance that's in there. There's the dual speaker setup. Not the best, but it's still pretty good. There's the wireless charging that people's been asking for years. And then, of course, there's that A11 chip and 3 gigs of RAM on the performance side. The iPhone 10 does feel very snappy, but I still do notice some stutters when scrolling through some apps. And I don't know if that's the OS or the apps or the hardware. I don't know, but I have no problems here. The battery life is pretty good for right now. No complaints there either. Still some annoyances that are not exclusive to the iPhone 10. For instance, the headphone jack. I don't feel like I need to get into that, but we all know about it. There's the NFC thing where apps can't make use of the NFC on the phone, but it is a hardware chip that exists, and I think that sucks, especially someone like myself that use cameras with NFC so often, and to be able to pull pictures off of the camera quickly using NFC is a must, and it sucks that it's not here. Coming around to the camera, yes, we spoke about the vertical layout, and that is what it is, but these cameras are solid. I wouldn't say they're the best on the market, but they're damn near up there. Both cameras, both the wide angle and the much more narrow, or the zoom, or whatever Apple would call it, they're both stabilized. So in low light, you can get some very good shots. So that's a plus. And because of that stabilization, you can also get some really good video. Speaking of video, the slow motion here is just amazing. It always has, to be honest with you, but they stepped it up. I think there's a 240 or 260 mode now. That's crazy. And then there's 4K at 60 frames a second. Wow. I can't say enough about it. In fact, if you subscribe to our photography channel, I pretty much leaned into all of the camera companies, everyone from Canon to Olympus to Nikon. It is utterly unacceptable and ridiculous that Apple has a cell phone that does 4K at 60 and none of my current cameras can. It's so annoying. But yeah, whatever. Kudos to Apple for that and all the portrait mode stuff that they got going on. Okay, fine, that's cool. And then there's the Animoji stuff. Yeah, okay, I find that's cool. Now, the real question here is, for an iOS lover, is it worth upgrading to the iPhone 10? I say yes, as long as you can't you have no worries about Touch ID. If you're not attached to Touch ID for any particular reason, Face ID works and you're good to go. If you require a larger device, and let me set the record straight, the real estate that's available on the iPhone 10 is squarely in the middle between the Plus and the regular iPhone 7 or 8. So it's not as small as what you get in the iPhone 8, but it's not as much real estate as what you get on the iPhone 8 Plus. And what's to be noted there is those phones, the Plus feels a little more, it's a lot bigger in your hand, whereas this guy fits more comfortably, and it's a surprisingly compact phone. So those two things I would watch out for if you're thinking about the upgrade. If you're coming from the Android world looking into the iPhone 10, I think it does deserve a look. There's a lot about it that people would like, and I would say these new gestures that are happening here that are a result of not having a home button do a lot to make iOS feel a lot more modern. But it's still the same iOS. It's still icon grid, and a lot of that doesn't change. So yeah, that's my take on the iPhone 10. I think it's a dope phone. I don't think it's changing the way we do anything anytime soon. But maybe my wish list here is the next iteration of this, maybe the iPhone XS or the iPhone 11. I would like to see Apple come out with a Plus model. It just feels too small for me, but that's just me. Hit the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Did you get your iPhone 10? Are you planning to upgrade to it? Why and why not? My name is Ramon. I'm out of here. Peace. Well, I guess, and the reason we started Lifestyles Defined is because if we weren't on camera arguing about these things, the technologies, the phones, the iPhones, the Androids, the cameras, the games, we'd be on the phone arguing about it. We'd be in each other's houses arguing about it. So why not just put it in front of a camera for everyone to enjoy it the way we do? That's what Lifestyles Defined is all about. We just